Let me tell you something that should terrify you. You check that little screen in your hand more than 40 times each day. 40 times you interrupt your own life to see if strangers have noticed you. That is not 40 moments, that is 40 fractures in your day. 40 times you abandon whatever is before you to chase shadows. Do you know what the Romans called this? Slavery. You serve masters you have never met. You perform for an audience that does not know your name. And here is what troubles me most. You are not even paid for this servitude. You pay with your time, your peace, your very sanity, and for what? For a tiny picture of a hand pointing upward, for a heart that appears and disappears, for numbers that mean nothing tomorrow. You are spending your life, your brief, irreplaceable life, on this. Now listen, I need you to stay with me because by the end of this conversation, you will understand something that most people never see. Why living for approval has stolen your peace, how to recognize when you are performing rather than living, and most importantly, how to reclaim your days from the tyranny of others' opinions. This is not a small matter. This is about whether your life actually belongs to you. You feel exhausted, don't you? Not from work, but from maintaining this image. Every post must be perfect. Every photo must be reviewed 10 times. Every word must be measured. You are not living, you are stage managing your life. And I know this because I see it in your eyes when you finally put that device down. There is a hollow feeling there, an emptiness that no amount of likes can fill. The applause comes, but it brings no lasting joy. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, you need more. It is like drinking seawater. It looks like it will quench your thirst, but it only makes you thirstier. You know this is true because you have felt it. You have received those little hearts and felt momentarily pleased, and then immediately checked again to see if more had arrived. This is not happiness. This is addiction. And the worst part? You look back on your day and cannot remember what you did. You were busy, endlessly busy, but with what? Scrolling, checking, posting, comparing. You gave hours to this, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing you can hold. Nothing that makes you stronger. Nothing real. You have made yourself a prisoner. You cannot enjoy a meal without photographing it. You cannot experience beauty without capturing it. You cannot have a private thought because every thought becomes potential content. You are not free. Now, others will tell you to manage your time better, to set limits, to be more disciplined with technology. These are useful, perhaps, but they miss the deeper problem. You are not free inside yourself. Until you break the chains of needing their approval, no system will save you. So, I will not offer you tricks or systems. I offer you something more fundamental. Clarity. The ability to see what you are truly doing when you hand your time over to this machine. The courage to choose your own life over your displayed life. The wisdom to know that your days are numbered, and that none, not one of them, should be sacrificed to people who do not know you and will not remember you. I have watched this disease destroy minds for my entire life, not with screens, no, but with the same poison, living for the crowd. The Romans did this without technology. We chased applause in forums, we performed in public spaces, we measured ourselves by how many clients attended us at dawn. The trap is ancient. Only the mechanism is new. So when I tell you how to escape it, I speak not as someone guessing, but as someone who has seen this pattern destroy countless lives across generations. I know how this ends, and I want to save you from that ending. So let me tell you what I have seen not just in ancient Rome, but in every age, including yours. In Rome, I knew men who would spend hours at the barber's shop, not for cleanliness, mind you, but for display. They would sit there while every hair was arranged, discussing with grave seriousness whether a single strand was out of place. They would grow angry, genuinely angry, if the result was not perfect. Why? Because they were going to walk through the forum, and people would see them. But here is what troubled me most. While sitting in that chair, they were not present. Their minds were already in the forum, imagining the eyes on them, rehearsing how they would walk, what they would say. They were not living in that moment. They were preparing for the performance of their lives. One such man, let us call him Marcus, became so obsessed with his appearance that he could not leave his house unless everything was perfect. He would cancel meetings, miss important occasions, let opportunities pass by, all because he could not achieve the image he desired. Eventually, people stopped inviting him, not because they judged his appearance, but because he was never truly present, never truly there. He had become so focused on how he appeared that he forgot how to simply be. When I would try to have a conversation with him, his eyes would wander, looking to see who was watching us, calculating what our interaction would look like to others. He was not with me. He was performing the act of being with me, and you could feel it, that absence, that emptiness where a real person should have been. Do you see yourself in this? When you spend 20 minutes choosing the right filter, arranging the perfect caption, waiting for the ideal moment to post, what are you doing? You are in that barber's chair, obsessing over a single hair, while your actual life passes by unnoticed. The meal grows cold. The sunset ends. The person next to you stops trying to connect because they can see you are somewhere else, imagining how this moment will look to strangers. Now let me tell you about others I knew. There were those who cultivated an image of leisure and sophistication. They would spend fortunes on banquets, not to enjoy the food, but so others would speak of their refinement. They arranged every detail: the silver plate, the carefully carved birds, the presentation of the wine, and while the feast was happening, they were not tasting anything. They were watching their guests' faces, measuring their reactions, calculating their reputation. I watched one wealthy family descend into ruin over this madness. They could not eat a simple meal. They could not sit in their own home without it being a performance. Every visitor had to be impressed. Every moment had to be documented by their household scribes so that others would hear of it later. The wife would spend days planning these events, obsessing over every detail. The husband would go into debt to maintain the appearance of wealth. The children grew up never experiencing a genuine family meal, only staged performances of family life. They accumulated debt, anxiety, and exhaustion, all to maintain an image that no one actually cared about as much as they imagined. Because here is what they never understood. Their guests were not really paying attention. Their guests were too busy worrying about their own image, their own reputation, their own performance. Everyone was performing for everyone else, and no one was actually present. It was a theater of ghosts, each one playing to an audience that did not exist. The tragedy? When they finally lost everything and were forced to live simply, they discovered something shocking. They were happier. Without the burden of maintaining that image, without the constant performance, they could finally breathe. They could finally taste their food. They could finally have a conversation without calculating how it would sound when repeated. The wife told me, weeping, that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply sit with her husband without thinking about who would hear about it. She had lost years to this performance, and only poverty had freed her. This is what your screen has done to you. Every meal becomes a photo opportunity. Every experience becomes content. You are not living these moments, you are producing them for an audience who will scroll past them in 2 seconds. And the cruelest part? You know this. You have felt it. You have posted something you thought would be impressive, watched it get ignored, and felt that sinking feeling of rejection, Not because the experience itself was bad, but because the approval you expected did not arrive. You have turned your own life into a performance that you cannot enjoy. But perhaps the clearest example I can give you is this. I knew a brilliant orator named Lucius. When he spoke, he could move crowds to tears, to action, to change their very minds. He had genuine talent, real skill, but he made one fatal error. He began to live for their applause. At first, it was subtle. He would adjust his speeches based on what received the loudest reaction. If a certain phrase made them cheer, he would use it again and again and again. If a particular topic drew crowds, he would speak on it repeatedly, even when he had nothing new to say. Then he began choosing his topics based on what would draw the biggest crowds. Then, and this is where it became pathological, he started saying things he did not believe, taking positions he did not hold, all because they would generate the response he craved. I remember watching him speak one day, spouting opinions he had privately told me were foolish, and seeing the crowd roar their approval. His face showed pleasure at their reaction, but his eyes were dead. He knew what he was doing. He knew he had sold himself. One night, after a particularly successful performance, I found him alone in the baths. The crowd had loved him. They had shouted his name, demanded encores, praised him to the skies. And do you know what he said to me? Just 4 words. I feel nothing, Seneca. He had received exactly what he wanted, and it meant nothing. Because deep down, he knew the applause was not for him, it was for a performance. It was for a character he played. The real Lucius, the one with actual thoughts and genuine beliefs, was trapped inside, screaming, unheard. He died young. Not from illness, but from exhaustion. The constant need to be praised, the endless pressure to maintain that image, the terror of being forgotten, it consumed him. He could not sleep because he was rehearsing his next performance. He could not eat because his stomach was twisted with anxiety about whether the crowd would love him tomorrow. He could not form genuine relationships because everyone was either an audience member or a competitor. He died alone, despite being surrounded by admirers, because no one actually knew him. They knew the character. The man himself had disappeared years before. And here is the cruelest part. After he died, people did forget him. Within a year, almost no one spoke his name. Another orator had captured their attention. The crowds moved on as thoughtlessly as clouds across the sky. All that energy, all that anxiety, all those years of performing for what? For temporary noise that faded as quickly as it came. I stood at his funeral, looking at the handful of people who attended, and thought, this is what he traded his life for. This is what happens when you give yourself to the crowd. Now look at your metrics. Those numbers that seem so important today, will they matter next week, next month, next year? The people who liked your post yesterday, do they remember it today? Do they even remember you? You are Lucius, performing for applause that will be forgotten before the sun sets. And the tragedy is, you know this, you have watched posts you spent hours crafting disappear into the void. You have seen how quickly the crowd forgets, yet you keep performing, keep sacrificing your real life for this temporary, meaningless approval. But I knew one man, let me tell you of him, because he shows us the alternative. His name was Gaius, and he was utterly unknown. He had no reputation to speak of. He did not frequent the forums. He did not perform in public. Most people in Rome did not know he existed. If you mentioned his name in the streets, you would receive blank stares. No one praised him. No one spoke of his greatness. By all the measures that most people use, his life was invisible. Yet when I visited him, I found something I rarely encountered: peace. His home was simple but his own. Every object in it was chosen because he liked it, not because it would impress visitors. His conversations were genuine because he had no audience to please. His joys were real because he did not need to announce them. He would read a book simply because it interested him, not because others would be impressed that he had read it. He would help a neighbor not for recognition, but because it was right. He would sit in his garden for hours, just sitting, without feeling the need to capture or share or prove that he was doing something worthwhile. One day I asked him, "Gaius, do you ever feel that you are missing out? That you should be more known, more seen, more celebrated?" He looked at me with genuine confusion, as if I had asked him whether he wished he had wings. "Missing out on what?" he said. "I have everything I need. I have my time. I have my mind. I have my freedom. I can spend my days exactly as I choose. I can think my own thoughts. I can live according to my own judgment. What could be worth trading those for?" And I realized, sitting there in his simple garden, that he was the richest man I knew. Not in silver or gold, but in the thing that matters most. His life belonged to him. Every hour was his to spend. Every experience was his to savor. He was not performing for anyone. He was simply living. When he was happy, his happiness was real. When he was sad, his sadness was his own. Everything he felt was genuine, because it was not filtered through the question of how it would look to others. The difference between Gaius and the others I have described is this. Gaius was free, and they were slaves. That is not metaphor. That is literal truth. And this is what I want for you. Not isolation, not invisibility, but freedom. The freedom to live your life without constantly wondering who is watching. The freedom to experience joy without needing to announce it. The freedom to be here, now, without performing for an audience that barely knows you exist. Now that you have seen these patterns, let me explain to you what is actually happening. Why this is not just a bad habit, but a fundamental betrayal of your own life. Listen carefully. When you live for the approval of others, you are no longer free. This is not metaphor. This is literal truth. A slave is someone whose life is determined by the will of another. A free person is someone who belongs to himself, who makes his own choices, who answers to his own reason. Every time you check that device to see if they have noticed you, you are checking in with your master. Every time you craft your words to please them, you are obeying their commands, commands they did not even give, but which you have imagined for them. Every time you feel that spike of anxiety because your post is not being praised enough, you are feeling the slave's fear of disappointing his owner. Think about what this means. You are walking around with an invisible master on your shoulder, constantly judging you, constantly evaluating whether you are worthy of approval. And here is the cruelty of this slavery. Your masters do not even know they are your masters. They scroll past you without thought. They give or withhold their approval based on whims, moods, momentary attention. You have given them complete power over your emotional state, and they do not even realize it. They do not care about you enough to be responsible masters. They are not trying to control you. You are enslaving yourself to people who are barely aware you exist. Think about how absurd this is. Imagine if I told you I had hired a judge to follow me around all day, someone who would evaluate everything I did and give me a score, and that my happiness depended entirely on whether this judge approved of me. You would think I was insane. You would ask me why I gave this person such power over me. Yet this is exactly what you have done. You have appointed thousands of judges, strangers, most of them, and you check with them dozens of times per day to see if they approve of your life. Freedom, real freedom, means that your peace does not depend on their reactions. It means you can speak truth without calculating how it will be received. It means you can live fully in a moment without needing to capture it for others. It means you measure yourself by your own character, not by their applause. A free person wakes up and thinks, "What matters to me today? What is the right thing to do? What would make this a life well lived?" A slave wakes up and thinks, "What will impress them? What will get their approval? What will make them notice me?" Ask yourself right now, when did you last make a choice without considering how it would look to others? When did you last do something purely because you wanted to, not because it would make good content? When did you last speak honestly without first filtering your words through their imagined judgment? If you cannot remember, then you are not free. And you will not become free by accident. You must choose it deliberately. You must take back your own mind from the crowd that has occupied it. Now let me tell you about the second great theft that is occurring. I need you to understand something fundamental about time. You cannot get it back. Money can be earned again. Reputation can be rebuilt. Health can be restored, often. But an hour that passes is gone forever. It goes into the great abyss of the past, and no power on earth can retrieve it. Not prayers, not wealth, not regret. It is simply gone. This means every hour you give to something is a choice of ultimate seriousness. You are spending your life, literally spending the substance of your existence. And what are you spending it on? Checking if strangers have approved of you, scrolling through the carefully curated performances of others, creating content that will be forgotten tomorrow, comparing your real life to their performed lives. These are not small diversions. This is not innocent entertainment. This is your life draining away while you watch. Let me be specific about what this costs you. An hour given to this screen is an hour you did not spend in genuine conversation with someone you love. It is an hour you did not spend developing a skill that would actually enrich your life. It is an hour you did not spend in the presence of nature, or in the presence of yourself, or in the presence of anything real. It is an hour you did not spend reading something worth reading, thinking something worth thinking, or doing something worth doing. It is simply gone, traded for nothing of value. People say, but it is just a few minutes here and there. No, add it up. If you spend 3 hours a day on this, and many of you spend more, that is 3 hours multiplied by 365 days. That is 1,095 hours per year. That is 45 complete days. You are giving nearly 2 months of your waking life every year to people who do not know you, do not care about you, and will forget you the moment you disappear from their feed. 2 months per year, every year. For what? Now, imagine you are on your deathbed. Imagine looking back on your life and realizing you spent 2 months of every year, years of your total existence seeking the approval of strangers online. Will that seem like time well spent? Or will you weep at the waste? Will you wish you had those years back? Will you trade everything you own for just 1 more hour with the people you loved? 1 more moment of actually being present in your own life? The brutal truth is this: you are going to die. I am going to die. We all are. Death does not wait for you to figure out what matters. It does not pause while you scroll. It does not give you extra time because you wasted the time you had. Every moment you spend performing for others is a moment you are not actually alive. And there is no getting those moments back. None. You can regret them, you can mourn them, but you cannot reclaim them. I have seen people die, good people, people I loved, and I have never once heard someone on their deathbed say they wished they had gotten more approval from strangers. I have never heard anyone say they regretted not checking their notifications more often. But I have heard countless people express anguish over time wasted, over relationships neglected, over their own life unlived, because they were too busy performing a version of life for others. This is the regret that comes at the end, not that you failed to impress them, but that you spent your precious days trying to. Now let me destroy one illusion right now. Their approval does not mean what you think it means. When someone gives you a like, they are not saying, "I respect you deeply." They are not saying, "Your life has value." They are not saying, "I see you and appreciate who you are." They are making the smallest possible gesture of acknowledgement, something they do dozens or hundreds of times per day, often without even consciously registering what they are approving. Think about your own behavior. How many things have you liked that you barely looked at? How many posts have you scrolled past from people you supposedly care about? How many times have you given that tiny gesture of approval while thinking about something else entirely? While eating dinner? While in the bathroom? While half listening to someone trying to talk to you? Your own likes are meaningless, you know this. So why do you believe their likes mean something? This is what you are living for. This is what you are measuring your worth against. These meaningless gestures from distracted strangers who will forget your existence before their next meal. And here is what should truly alarm you. You know this. Somewhere in your mind, you understand that these metrics are hollow. You have felt the emptiness of receiving praise online. You have noticed that it does not satisfy, that you need more and more and more of it just to feel the same brief spark of validation. This is not because you are broken. This is because you are pursuing something that has no substance. It is like trying to fill your stomach with images of food. It looks like food. It resembles food. But it cannot nourish you because it is not real. The approval of strangers online is not real respect. It is not real connection. It is not real appreciation. It is a shadow, an image, a simulation of the real thing. And you cannot build a life on shadows. Compare this to real respect. When someone who knows you, who has seen you at your worst, who understands your character, when that person says they respect you, it means something. Because they are not judging your performance, they are judging you. They have seen you when you were not trying to impress anyone. They know your flaws and choose to respect you anyway. Their opinion is worth something because it is based on something real. But online, no one knows you. They know only what you show them. Their approval is not for you, it is for the character you play. And you know this, which is why their approval never satisfies. Deep down, you know they do not really see you. They see a curated image. They see your best angle, your cleverest thought, your most impressive moment. And some part of you knows that if they saw all of you, the doubt, the failure, the ordinariness, they might not approve at all. The most insulting part, you are working so hard to impress people you do not even respect. Be honest with yourself. Most of the people whose approval you seek, if you met them in person, would you actually value their opinion? Would you let them make major decisions in your life? Would you trust them with something important? Would you take their advice on matters that truly matter to you? Of course not. You know nothing about their judgment, their character, their wisdom. For all you know, they are just as lost as you are, just as desperate for approval, just as empty. So why are you letting them determine your emotional state? Why are you crafting your life to please people whose opinion you would not trust about anything else? It is as if you appointed a random stranger on the street to be your judge, and now you live or die by their whims. You would never do this consciously, but you are doing it. Every time you check those metrics, you are asking them, am I good enough? Am I worthy? Do I matter? And you are accepting their answer, whatever it might be. Now let me explain something that you need to understand. There is a difference between experiencing something and capturing something to show others. When you are truly present in a moment, your mind is there completely. You are tasting the food, feeling the sun, hearing the words, absorbing the beauty. Time slows down, depth appears. Everything becomes vivid and real. You are alive. But when you are thinking about how to capture or describe or frame an experience for others, you are not in it. You are standing outside it, viewing it as potential content. You are a director filming a scene, not a person living a life. And while you are busy directing, the actual moment, the unrepeatable, precious reality of now, slips past unnoticed. You were there physically, but you were absent in every way that matters. I see this everywhere. People at magnificent vistas, holding up their devices, seeing the view through a screen instead of with their own eyes. They travel thousands of miles to see something beautiful, then experience it only through that tiny rectangle, filtered and flattened. People at meals, photographing their food while it grows cold, never actually tasting it because they are too busy arranging it for the camera. People in conversations, half listening because they are thinking about how to describe this interaction later, what clever thing they will say about it, how they will make themselves look in the retelling. This is not living. This is creating evidence that you lived. It is creating the appearance of a life, the performance of a life, while the actual life goes unexperienced. And here is the deepest tragedy. You are doing this because you think the documented life is more real than the lived life. You think that if something is not captured, witnessed, approved by others, it somehow matters less. But the opposite is true. The moments you lived fully, without documenting, without performing, those are the ones that actually changed you. Those are the ones that live in your memory with real vividness. Those are the ones you will carry with you, not the posts that got likes, not the carefully staged photos, the real moments, the ones where you forgot about the audience and simply were. Those are the moments that make a life. Those are the moments you are sacrificing for the performance. Let me tell you something else. You cannot serve two masters. This is an old truth, but it remains true. You cannot live for their approval and live for yourself. These are mutually exclusive paths. You must choose. If you live for their approval, then your choices are determined by what will impress them, what will get their attention, what will generate their praise. Your values become their values. Your priorities become their priorities. Your very identity becomes whatever performs best for their approval. You cease to be yourself and become instead a character designed to please an audience. But if you live for yourself, and by this I mean for your own reason, your own judgment, your own character, then their approval becomes irrelevant. Not irrelevant in the sense that you do not hear it, but irrelevant in the sense that it does not determine your course. You welcome praise from those you respect, but you do not need it. You ignore criticism from fools. You make decisions based on what is right and good and true, not on what will be applauded. The Romans had a saying, "You cannot serve two masters." This is especially true when one of those masters is yourself, your own reason, your own conscience, and the other is the crowd. The crowd is fickle. The crowd is thoughtless. The crowd will praise you one day and tear you down the next, based not on your actual worth, but on their momentary whims. If you serve the crowd, you will spend your life chasing after their changing opinions, never stable, never at peace, never knowing who you really are. So you must decide, will you be the master of your own life, or will you serve the crowd? There is no middle ground. Every moment you spend seeking their approval is a moment you are not living according to your own reason. And the more you serve them, the weaker your ability to serve yourself becomes. It is like a muscle that atrophies from disuse. Eventually, you forget how to even know what you want, apart from what will please them. You lose yourself entirely. Now, I have shown you the problem. I have explained the theft that is occurring. But understanding is not enough. You must act. Let me tell you exactly how to reclaim your life. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for that device, I want you to do something radical. Nothing. Simply sit, look out a window, notice your own breathing. Feel the fact that you are alive, right now, without anyone watching. This is harder than it sounds. Your hand will itch for the device. Your mind will tell you that you are missing something important. You are not. What you would find on that screen was posted by people who are also anxious, also distracted, also performing. There is nothing there that matters more than this moment of being present with yourself. Nothing there is more important than learning to simply be. Do this for just 10 minutes, not as a permanent solution, but as an experiment. Notice how you feel without immediately plugging into the judgment of others. Notice whether the world actually falls apart because you did not check your notifications. Notice whether you are, perhaps, more peaceful than you have been in years. Notice what thoughts arise when you are not drowning them out with other people's content. Notice who you are when no one is watching. After these 10 minutes, if you choose to use your device, use it deliberately. Choose what you will look at instead of letting the algorithm choose for you. Set a timer. Have a specific purpose. Do not scroll. Do not let yourself fall into the trance of infinite content. Be the master of the tool, not its servant. Look at what you came to look at, then put it away. Your life is waiting for you. Do not make it wait. Today, I want you to experience something beautiful and tell no one. Not as a test of willpower, but as an experiment in actual living. Go somewhere you love, or eat something delicious, or read something that moves you, and keep it completely private. Do not photograph it. Do not describe it. Do not hint at it. Let it belong entirely to you. Watch what happens in your mind. You will feel an almost physical urge to share it. You will think, but it would make such good content. You will want to announce it, to be known as someone who does this thing. Let that urge pass. Sit with the discomfort of having a beautiful experience that no one else validates. This discomfort is important. It is showing you how deeply the addiction runs. What you will discover, if you can push through that discomfort, is a different quality of experience. When you know that you are doing this only for yourself, when there is no audience to impress, the experience becomes more vivid. You taste it more deeply, you feel it more completely, because you are actually there, not performing being there. This is what life feels like when you stop performing it. This is not about never sharing anything. This is about breaking the addiction. This is about learning to live without constant validation. Once you can do this, then your sharing becomes a choice rather than a compulsion. You share because you genuinely want to connect, not because you need their approval to feel real. For 1 week, just 1 week, track exactly how much time you spend on these platforms. Not approximately. Exactly. Use whatever tools you need. Be ruthlessly honest. Every time you pick up that device, note it. Every minute you spend scrolling, count it. Do not judge yourself. Do not try to change it yet. Just see it clearly. At the end of the week, convert that time into meaningful units. How many books could you have read? How many meals could you have cooked and savored? How many conversations could you have had? How many hours could you have spent developing a skill that would actually enrich your life? How many sunsets could you have watched? How many moments with your children, your parents, your friends? Make a specific list. Then, Ask yourself this question. If someone offered to pay you for that time, what would be fair compensation? What is an hour of your life worth? $10? 100? More? Now realize, you gave that time away for nothing. No one paid you. You volunteered your life in exchange for tiny gestures of approval from strangers. This is not to shame you. This is to clarify what is actually happening. You cannot change what you do not see clearly. Before you post anything, ask yourself, would I do this if no one would ever know? If the answer is no, if you would not write that thing, or photograph that moment, or go to that place, if it could not be announced, then you are not doing it for yourself. You are performing, and if you are performing, you must ask yourself why. Whose approval are you seeking? Why do you need it? What void are you trying to fill with their attention? The goal is not to never share anything. The goal is to only share what comes from a genuine desire to connect or express, not from a desperate need to be validated. There is a difference between saying, "Look at this beautiful thing I saw," shared from joy, and "Look at this beautiful thing I saw," said with a silent, anxious question. Do you think I am interesting now? Do you approve of me? The first is generous, the second is begging. And you do not need to beg. Finally, practice this. When you are with another person, be only with them. Put the device away. Not on the table, not face down nearby. Watch how difficult this is. Watch how your mind keeps checking out, keeps wondering what notifications might be arriving, keeps wanting to verify that you are not missing something important. You are not. What is important is here, now, in this person's presence. The ability to be fully present, this is becoming rare, and because it is rare, it is precious. The people who can give you their complete attention are the ones who will be remembered. The ones who truly connect are not the ones who have the most followers, but the ones who can actually see the person in front of them. This is the practice that will transform everything, learning to be here, completely, without performing for an invisible audience. This is freedom. This is life. This is what you have been missing. So now you see it. You see how this disease works, how it takes your time, your peace, your very self, and trades it for nothing for the brief, meaningless approval of people who do not know you and will not remember you. But seeing it is only the beginning. The question is, what will you do now? You can close this video and return to the feed. You can go back to checking, posting, performing, seeking their validation. Nothing will stop you. The machine will be happy to have you back. It will give you that little spike of pleasure when someone likes your post. It will give you that little spike of anxiety when they do not. It will keep you on that wheel, running, exhausted, getting nowhere. And year after year, you will look back and wonder where your life went. Or you can decide that your life belongs to you. That your time, your brief, precious, unrepeatable time on this earth is too valuable to spend on the approval of strangers, that you would rather live one real moment than perform 1,000 false ones. I am not telling you to delete everything and disappear. I am telling you to wake up, to see what is actually happening, to choose deliberately how you spend your hours, to know the difference between connection and performance, between sharing and begging, between living and curating. The free person is not the one who has no relationships or obligations. The free person is the one who answers to his own reason, who makes choices based on his own judgment, who does not need the approval of the crowd to know his own worth. You can become that person, but only if you choose it, only if you take back your time, your attention, your life from the machine and the crowd, only if you learn, once again, how to simply be here, now, alive, without an audience. Your life is brief. Every day that passes, you have less of it. The question is not whether you will spend it. Well, you will not. Not entirely. No one does. The question is whether you will spend it on things that matter to you or on things that matter to no one. Choose wisely, choose now, and then choose again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Freedom is not a single decision, it is a practice, a discipline, a daily return to what matters. The crowd does not care about you, the algorithm does not care about you, but you can care about you. You can guard your time, you can choose your life, you can be free. I leave you with this. At the end of your life, you will not remember the posts that got the most likes. You will not remember the metrics, the followers, the performance. You will remember the moments you were fully alive. Make sure you have some. Make sure that when you look back on your days, you can say, I was there. I was present. I lived. Not for them, but for myself. Not performing, but being. Not seeking approval, but giving myself my own approval, earned through living according to my own reason. If this resonated with you, if you felt even a small recognition of truth in what I have said, then I ask you to do 3 things. First, subscribe to this channel, not because I need your validation, but because these conversations matter, and I want to continue having them with you. There is more wisdom to share, more truth to speak, more ways I can help you reclaim your life from the forces that are stealing it. Second, leave a comment below telling me, what is one thing you will do differently tomorrow? Not a grand promise, just one small, specific action. Will you leave your device in another room when you wake up? Will you experience something beautiful without photographing it? Will you have one conversation where you are completely present? Tell me. This creates accountability and reminds you that you are not alone in this struggle. Others are fighting this same battle. We can help each other. Third, and this is most important, close this device for 1 hour. Not to punish yourself, but to prove to yourself that you can, that you are free, that your life still belongs to you. 1 hour, 60 minutes. During that hour, do something real. Talk to someone you love. Go outside. Read something worth reading. Cook a meal and taste it. Sit in silence. Remember what it feels like to simply be. Now go. Be here. Be alive. Be free.